Well, I think we should definitely be looking at removing barriers to internal trade in Canada. So get the provinces, territories, federal government together to have a conversation about how to mutually recognize differences in standards and regulations and get rid of those domestic protectionism measures. I think that helps. That'll help the entire economy and that'll help the industry that way. And then I think it's also an opportunity for the industry to contemplate what infrastructure do we need to be stronger domestically and access other markets. And again, engage with governments on that, about the policy changes that we need, and also talk to investors about how the climate here is changing and we do want to get things done. What impacts the United States impacts Canada. So even though American importers are paying that tax, some importers will change their sources, right? So Canadians could lose contracts if the US economy enters into a recession, which is one potential outcome of tariffs and inflation. That also impacts the Canadian economy just because we send so many exports there and our economies are so interlinked. So we need to be prepared for some bumpy times and learn how to be resilient. And then again, if we can focus on internal trade and boost our economy domestically, that's something we can do to try to buffer ourselves from those tariff impacts of it. I always advise people to first learn to speak American, right? Every Canadian thinks they understand the United States because we watch Veep and House of Cards, but that doesn't mean we actually understand the political system. And while the instinct might be to put our head in the sand and just wait until this is all over, it is really too important to us as a country in terms of impacts on our economy. So really try to figure out the US political system. Seek first to understand. If you're going to be successful in a negotiation, you have to understand the other side. So whether you agree with what's going on or not, educate yourself a bit. That's the first thing I say. The second thing is be engaged. Democracy is a sport that requires the active participation of its citizens. So if you want some change to happen, don't waste this crisis. Seize the moment and speak up about whether it's internal barriers to trade, energy infrastructure, regulatory policy, whatever it is that matters to you. And you don't have to be political about it. You can come forward with policy solutions in a non-partisan way, and that's really what the country needs right now. And the other thing I'd say is you need to be strategic. Really focus on what is important to you as a person, as an industry, as a company, and keep those always in your line of sight to help you determine what is the next right step to take. You should always be trying to walk closer to those goals. I think we're seeing a fundamental shift in the approach to globalization and approach to trade. And that's something that we really have to keep in mind because we have built our economies together and we have integrated our supply chains. And so if those supply chains are no longer working to our advantage, how are we going to refocus? How are we going to pivot? Where else are we going to sell our things and what else are we going to sell? What are we going to make at home? So the potential for macroeconomic impact is pretty big. I heard this described not as a black swan event, but as a sea full of black swans because we're seeing a really fundamental shift in the world order and in the rules of trade. And so we need to be aware of that, alive to that, and be nimble and figure out, okay, then what works for Canada and how do we want to adjust those relationships?